Thank you so much for checking out this video today. My name is Megan McDonald, and I'm a student recruitment coordinator here at NSCC. And we're going to be sharing some information with you today about the graphic and print production program. I'm joined by faculty member Doug Lewis. He's going to be telling us all you need to know about the program. So we've got lots of information to share with you. But before we get into that, I wanted to share a couple of important acknowledgements. The first one that we have is a land acknowledgement. NSCC is located in Mi'kma'ki, the unceded territory and traditional homeland of the Mi'kmaq Nation. Our relationship is based on a series of peace and friendship treaties between the Mi'kmaq Nation and the Crown dating back to 1725. As treaty beneficiaries, we recognize that we're all treaty people. The next acknowledgement is an African Nova Scotian recognition. NSCC recognizes the African Nova Scotians as a distinct group who arrived here 400 years ago. From that time on, they've contributed to the infrastructure and economic wealth of the towns and cities they helped to build, but from which they could not benefit. Let us learn more about how our respective communities were shaped by the historical contributions of African Nova Scotians to Mi'kma'ki. So Doug, you are a faculty member in graphic and print production. Thank you for being here. Do you want to introduce yourself? Let us know a little bit about you and your career.
Sure. My name is Doug. I'm just one of the two core faculty for graphic and print production. I'm the oldest one, and I've been printing for a very long time, have a lot of experience around the province and specifically in HRM as well. Tanya Boudreau, who wasn't able to make it today, is the other instructor for the program, and I'll be the first year instructor and Tanya is the second year instructor. So yeah, that's a team.
Wonderful. And I mean, we are joining each other remotely today. I'm in my office, but you are somewhere quite special. You are in the print shop.
Yeah, I'm on location. Yeah, like the radio folks say, I'm on location. So I'm kind of in one of our three shared or three dedicated spaces for the printing program. So in the Ivany campus in Dartmouth, we have a Mac lab. It's up on the third floor where we do our traditional learning. And this area right behind me here is basically the pre-press department, and we have one printer. And then in the back shop that you can see over here on my left is basically where all the printing happens. We have all our machinery, paper stock, vinyl, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I just wanted to do it somewhere it was nice and bright today. You can kind of see a little bit of your space.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Looks like wonderful facilities. So talking about kind of program in general, and then we're going to get more into some specifics. Here are just kind of general info about intakes and program length. So graphic and print production has one intake every year. So this is September annually. The program takes 2 academic years to complete. You get a diploma when you graduate. And the program right now is being offered at a full-time pace in person, for the most part, at the Ivany campus in Dartmouth. So just the one campus location. As you can see, specialized facilities. It needs its own special, built print shop and all of that great technology there. Admission requirements wise, we're looking at minimum for a high school diploma or equivalent. So a test like the GED, for example, or another, test. There's a number of different options. Email us if you have any questions, but you could also apply if you had college, if you had university. All of those would meet the requirement. And one thing to flag is if you're an international student, this isn't a program that is eligible for a postgraduate work permit. So that's one thing to consider when you're looking at program options. So the program in general, the graphic and print production, it's a very large field. Can you give us an idea, Doug, about what graphic and print production is and what kind of work students might be doing in the program or, when they graduate?
Sure, I'll give you a rundown. It's kind of a, it's a big industry, and we kind of think about print production. We might think about posters or magazines or books, that kind of thing. In this program, we've actually broadened out to and bring in other parts of our industry, like signage, labels, and that sort of thing. Basically, we start at the very beginning of the process, and we start to look at, what does a good file look like. You'll learn things about Adobe and that kind of thing. And then taking it through to the rest of the program, you start to learn about technically fixing files. And then you actually get into the printing and the output side. And we try to make it so that it kind of fits in as many parts of our industry as we can. So, for example, there's an employer in Burnside that prints on plastic, and they print like plastic bags for the food industry. And we don't teach that, and it's not in our core knowledge, but it's a related industry. And so our students can go there to get jobs because we sort of talk the same lingo, even though they haven't had a chance to play with that technology here. And then in the last piece of the program would be our finishing techniques, and that's like, cutting, trimming, installation on cars, like kind of the vinyl wrap that you'd see on the side of a bus, that kind of thing. So that's kind of the industry out there. There's other parts of the industry that we do training for that maybe is not hands-on, things like estimating, customer service, all those sorts of administrative side of the print world. So we teach those in the program as well.
Cool. So this is beyond paper. I think often when we think about printing, we think paper, but it's really so many different materials.
Exactly. That's key these days, is that all print shops, there was print shops that only had paper, sort of certainly in the early part of my career. And now the types of media out there, it's endless, and the technology and the kind of the research is not just around machinery, it's around ink and it's around materials and substrates as well. So everything is kind of expanding at the same time. It's really cool.
Yeah, exciting. Lots of different places that folks could land, right? Both locally and all over the place. We're getting a bit into kind of the day-to-day student life section here of slides. Can you tell us a little bit about what it's like? I mean, you're a faculty member, what teaching style is like, what the classroom feels like for students.
Sure. Because it's a hands-on industry, the majority of what we do obviously would be practice. So, like that, you think of hand-eye coordination, it's a big part of what we do, learning how to use rulers and knives and that kind of thing on the practical side. And then there always has to be theory, and there has to be a traditional learning environment as well. So we do that upstairs in our Mac lab. We do a short presentation every day. It might be a half an hour, 45 minutes, cover some terminology, some basic concepts of the tasks that we're about to start. And that's what we draw on to kind of learn the words that we're supposed to use in our industry, as well as we use that as the faculty to kind of come back later and quiz you and then use that for part of your training. It's very casual. The class size is not huge, so we get a chance to really kind of get to know each other. Peer-to-peer learning is huge in our classroom. Tanya and I have a very open style. Like, it's not a structured kind of thing. Like, you just kind of jump in and talk. We do a round table a couple of times a week where we kind of pull all the tables together, all the chairs together at one table, and kind of talk about what we did that week, what we produced, what's good print, what's bad print, and kind of learn that way. I guess one thing I really should mention is that we're not a homework heavy program. So you're not going to have a lot of books. You're not going to have any books to take home and read and study. Really, our program is schedule heavy. And I'm not sure this is in these slide decks anywhere. I just kind of thought of it. So it's kind of like a workplace where you have to be here Monday to Friday to kind of participate and use machinery. And so some programs are book heavy, and you see students studying all the time and making notes, and we're not like that. Ours is about practice. And so being in the building and being here on your schedule is really how most of the core learning happens.
And Doug, are there tests or exams that students write, or is all of that learning, the demonstration of learning, in a kind of hands-on way?
So when you look at our course outlines, 60% of your marking system will all be from your hands-on production. So that means the other 40% comes from a little bit of tests. We don't do traditional exams. What we tend to do is go 3, 4, 5 weeks of a semester with some learning and some traditional knowledge and sort of slideshows like this. And then we'll do a couple of little quizzes to see that we got that information. And then we'll do the next 4 or 5 weeks, do a couple of quizzes. And it's not cumulative. So in December, you don't have to remember every word that we talked about from September up. It's kind of, we just do it in smaller chunks. And it seems to be, academically, it seems to be a good way to do it because you're practicing your hands-on skills along the way.
Yeah, sounds great.
Yeah.
What does a typical day look like?
Okay, so a typical day would be, we have sort of 2 main spaces. We call it upstairs and downstairs. So upstairs is basically the Mac lab, and half your day is up there, and that's where we do our traditional learning, but it's also where we learn all the Adobe software. So Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign. And that's a really quiet space because there's no printing equipment in there. So it gives us a chance to talk, show ideas, hey, how does this work? How does that work? Real general conversation kind of stuff. And then we spend the whole morning there working on our core assignments that we're going to use in the afternoon. So the other half of the day, sort of the lunch, is when we switch places. So in the morning, I'll be upstairs, Tanya will be downstairs, and at lunch we switch places. So we would come down to the print shop in the afternoon, and all the things that we kind of talked about and looked at upstairs, we bring them downstairs and put them into action. So we take the files, we take the PDFs, and we'll put it on a printer and make a poster, make a banner, whatever. And that's where we do the hands-on skills. So it's kind of a nice mixture of, you're not sitting in front of a computer all day and you're not on your feet all day. So you're kind of getting this little break and kind of moving around the shop, that kind of thing. And I think that's kind of a normal day for us. It's kind of like half and half, and the blending time in between is really cool because that's where the first year and second year students, they hang out in the shop here and have lunch. We're all we're all kind of geeky that way, where we like the print shop and it's our social place as well as our learning place. So our lunch hours, there's lots of people floating around just having lunch and talking about print and making machinery work and all that kind of stuff. So that's what a normal day looks like, or a typical day here. Yeah.
Mm. And if anyone has had the chance to come and visit the Ivany campus, maybe you've taken a tour, or if you haven't yet, you're welcome to. You'll know that the print shop that Doug's referring to is in the floor of the campus where a lot of our creative industries programs are housed. So I'm imagining there's also some great kind of cross-pollination and connection with students who are in other creative programs too.
Yeah, there really is. Like we have in the very next classroom to my left is a graphic design lab. And of course, they're kind of our primary customers in the printing industry. So they're always creating these new things. And it's kind of a good segue into where we fit in that marketing advertising world in print. So like designers will come up with a concept. This is what we want to print. We want to print this book with this cover, and then they bring it to a print shop and we kind of do it, and then we distribute it out. So we're kind of in that chain of production in the print shop. We also have like screen arts. So sometimes they'll be doing certain movie sets or short films, and they want to like look out a window and see a picture of a beach. So we'll do this really massive print of a beach, and they'll backlight it. So when you look out the window, it'll look like they were at a beach, even though they're inside of a movie set here. Yeah, so we just do lots of little random things like that kind of come up during the year, which is really cool. Their students will come and visit our shop, and we just print things, and the kind of day-to-day life of a print shop, really.
Yeah, how exciting for your students to see their work.
It is. It's really cool.
Yeah, in other people's project. It's exciting. So we've got a sample schedule here, and you'll see on the slide, this can change. So please, take this as an example only. But it really breaks down what you were talking about, Doug, sort of the upstairs and downstairs thing, right? The Mac lab and then the print shop. Do you want to share a little bit about what this looks like typically?
Sure, and actually, this is really quite accurate. It's just that the college could change things or whatever. Maybe machinery. Sometimes machinery breaks, and so we have to do this weird little. Oh, you stay downstairs this afternoon. We'll go upstairs. So that's more of a day-to-day program level. It doesn't happen a lot, but this is generally what it looks like. What you will see is on Tuesdays, for example, as a first-year student, you have two courses on a Tuesday with other faculty besides the core, Tanya and I. So we have two other faculty that will teach you on Tuesday, and otherwise you're with me Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and you have some open time Friday morning, and basically, like in the afternoons, once the traditional learning is done, you're more than welcome to hang around afterward, like after 4 o'clock, and print things. We kind of get you up and running really fast on some machinery so that you can kind of stay and work on projects after school, that kind of thing. And you're welcome to come earlier in the morning, but this is kind of our normal class time. You know what? It's not our normal class time. We start at 9 o'clock sharp every day. I don't want to sort of say, hey, you just float in whenever you want. It's not like that. We kind of structure it a lot like our industry. And in a production environment like ours, you got to start right at 9. So,
Yeah, no, makes sense. Absolutely.
yeah.
And so kind of zooming out a little bit more and taking a look at how the program looks over those 2 academic
Oops.
years, I see you've broken things down into semester A, semester B, and then there are 2 work experiences that students can get. So there's lots of information here. If there's any kind of courses you wanted to highlight, or anything in particular you wanted to share, Doug, please let us know.
No, I think I'll just point out that we've broken our program into four main print courses, which are the four courses: file creation, pre-press, digital and offset production, bindery finished in installations. And those four courses carry through all four semesters. So it's just a level 1, 2, 3, and 4 of each. And we've done that based on how our industry works. So, our industry is very divided sometimes. In some shops where people have a certain skill in file creation or pre-press or print or finishing. And so we structure our courses exactly what you see in the industry. And it's kind of like it's almost like a miniature career path, each of these four courses. So you can kind of get really good at one and then go out there and work in that one thing. And some of the smaller print shops, they may kind of, you may learn a lot of these things and do a lot of different jobs. So it's kind of different. But yeah, that's basically how all the courses work. And then you'll see the customer service, marketing, design, those sorts of things are extra courses that kind of add value to the actual print stuff that we're doing, the core print stuff.
Cool. So students are able to try their hand and learn skills in all of these different segments of industry. And so I'm imagining some people go through and they really find their niche within there and can choose that career path, whereas others may be interested in finding something that allows them to use a number of these skills day to day.
That's right. And what we do find is some folks, even in this age that we're in, some folks don't want to sit in front of a computer all day. They just don't want that digital life. And so they're really happy in digital and offset production or bindery and finishing, because that's really like there's no sitting down. You're up and moving all day, you're running machinery, you're lifting paper and stock and putting it in. So it's all like very busy, kind of run around the shop stuff. You're not sitting in front of a piece of software. And then other folks are very software driven. They love being online. They love Photoshop. They don't want to touch a piece of printing machinery. So we find that this program offers a little bit of each. And when you find the area that you like, you really don't want to do the other two areas, but you have to, but it's part of that learning. So we feel like we have a lot to offer depending on the type of person you are.
And that's something that strikes me as really, I think, unique about this program is that, we talk about it as being part of the creative industries offering that we have. It's under that umbrella, and there's certainly lots of creative aspects to it. But I could also see it being interesting for folks who are looking at kind of more an IT pathway or even like a skilled trade because of the machinery, because of the software. It's a really interesting combination of so many different ways of working.
It really fits well with trades. And I've often said most of my career, I often thought of me in a trade, because in the creative industries, our creative work is how do we get stuff done efficiently, cost effectively, that kind of thing, where we might not sit back and go, oh, I really like that blue color. It really kind of fits with the corporate look or the sky or something. So we don't have that sort of sense about our work. That's where designers do that work, or photographers, and then they bring it to us, and we're all about kind of creatively making sure that they get what they want when they want it. So we are really like a trade, like if manufacturing almost. I often use the analogy of a carpenters, right? Like we're carpenters, but we don't use wood, we use paper, right? So it's kind of it's really hands-on production-based stuff, yeah.
Mhm. Speaking of hands-on, work experience is a big part of the program. This program having two opportunities, which is unique. Some programs have simply the one 5-week term. So this is really neat for students to be able to have two of these opportunities. Can you tell us a bit about what these work terms look like?
Yeah, for sure. So the two different ones are basically a work term or work integrated learning, they call it now, I guess. But work terms and co-op are your two options. I can't say enough about how important these things are. Like work term is so critical, and we find that, let's say if 20 students go out on work term in the spring, that 8 or 10 of them will find summer work out of that. And they'll work all summer long and come back in September and have like 4 months under their belt. And the level that they get to with their skill is just explosive. And when they get back in September in their second year, it also gives them a great chance to make some great contacts in our industry. So even if they don't get summer work, they've had a good work experience out there, and made a contact, maybe get a reference for their next year, that kind of thing. So the work integrated learning or work term is a mandatory thing. It's something that you have to do and pass. You have to pass that course to get into second year of the program. But I can't say enough about it. It always leads to jobs. It leads to great summer work. And it really, kind of makes people think, oh yeah, I really do want to do this. I don't want to sit in front of a computer all day because I didn't all summer and I really like to be moving around the shop. So it's kind of good to kind of help you clarify maybe where you're going to fit in the future.
Mhm.
The other program is a co-op program. This is a traditional co-op. It's for first year students only. It's a 16-week paid position. So, but it works exactly like work term. You basically get matched up with an employer. You do a lot of that legwork along with the college, and I'll help you, of course. And then if you get matched up and everything works well, you'll go to an employer and stay for the whole summer and you'll be paid for it. So I guess what I should have said about work terms is that 5 weeks is not mandatory to be paid. Some of our employers, a lot of our employers will give you a little something. And sometimes it's maybe like $500 to sort of cover your travel and your lunches for the 5 weeks. But it's not mandatory in work terms. So I think this year, I think we're running 1, 2, 3 co-op students are running this summer. And they're all pretty happy about working the whole summer and getting paid a decent wage for it as well before they come back to their second year. So, and I believe with co-op, you get a designation on your diploma that says that you graduated the program with the co-op option, I believe. Yeah.
And so lots of these placements could be in the Halifax, Dartmouth area, right? That's where the campus is, but there's printing happening all over. So folks could go further afield if they wanted to.
Yeah, we get them go all over the province. We've had them down to Cape Breton, down in Digby. We did one in PEI. We did one, and then outside of the province, well, PEI, but we did Ontario. I had a person in Ottawa before, and you can do international ones as well. We had one person do it in Mexico one year. And so all the college has made all these as options, and it's kind of cool for the international students because some of them want to go back home like right away when they finish school, but they have this work term to do. So if you can do that at home, it kind of gets you home 5 weeks earlier and do your work term. There's a little bit of paperwork like everything, we kind of sign them off and say this is a good spot to do your work term and stuff, but it's really flexible in terms of where you want to go. And it just has to be a shop that we're aware of. If it's a brand new print shop, then likely I'll go visit it or have a communication with them to say what kind of work will they be doing, make sure it's safe and that sort of thing. And then most of our work terms in the city, I would say 80% of our work terms stay in the city, and they're scattered all over the city. Everywhere you can imagine, from Tantallon to Burnside to Chesapeake to downtown Halifax, there's places everywhere, and we always have enough work terms for everybody, so you won't go without, that's for sure. It's not hard to find them.
And so do you have employers who contact you and say, hey, we'd love to take on a work term student? Or are students kind of reaching out to those companies themselves initially?
So the way it works is I barely remember being that age of kind of coming out of school and starting to think about that. And so learning the skill of sort of contacting an employer and say, hey, this is me, this is what I do, and this is what I want from you. Can I get a work term? I think that's a good skill to have. And for some people, it's really tough. Others are natural at it. So what we do is we have a class and I say, hey, here's all the possibilities. And there could be 75 different companies looking for people. And I talk about each one. This person does this company does that. And then they pick 3 or 4. A lot of them reach out on their own because I want them to. And others say, well, I don't have contact information. So I supply contact information, but I don't go get one for you. That's just my own personal philosophy. I like when people go out and say, you know what, I got to find this. I got to figure out how to find a job. So that's a good skill.
Yeah.
And sometimes they fall through. Like it's a weird world. Sometimes employers will say, oh, we changed our mind. We can't take anybody. That's always where we step in. Tanya and I will step in and say, don't worry. It's last minute. We'll find something for you. A lot of companies will reach out to us like about February and they'll say, don't forget, we wanted someone this year. And every year we're signing up new companies. Like this year, we signed up 2 brand new companies to our work term. They didn't know we were here, and we just kind of bumped into them at meetings and different things that we do. And they're delighted. They're like, oh my gosh, we wish we had this system years ago, because in the summers, like so many people take time off from print shops. It's really good to have another set of hands. Even if you're just learning, you're still a good set of hands to have around a print shop. So yeah, it's a great system. It's everyone gets a great work term.
Yeah, such great connection to industry. That's good to know.
Yeah. Yep.
Speaking of industry, career options. I mean, I know the industry itself is vast, right? There's lots of opportunities, lots of ways to be working. But my understanding is that it's also quite close knit. And so, speaking with you and Tanya about, students finding work after graduation, I know that a lot of this often happens through the alumni network.
Yeah, so we run, it's a little old fashioned now, but we run Facebook in terms of an alumni network. And just because there's so many ways to reach out to people, we had to pick kind of one method that works, that is fairly stable. So we use this Facebook group. And as of last week, we had an alumni event last week, and one of the students that has graduated years ago said, we have 195 people on our Facebook group. So these are all graduates over the last 15, 20 years kind of thing. Generally speaking, what we use that Facebook group for is posting all of our job postings that we get in here, or if I find one or if any students find one, we post them there so that our students are kind of staying connected and trying to get as many of these jobs as possible. So let's see, I'm trying to think of how many I posted this year. Probably 5 or 6 I've posted this spring. Employers will reach out to us directly and say, get this posted and here's my contact information. So that's how we kind of keep in touch with our former students, the ones who are out there working that may want to change companies, or new graduates that are kind of looking for work.
Cool.
Yeah, actually, you know what, just before we move on, we have a couple of places that, like, they only want to come to us. They'll say, we're not going to advertise anywhere else. We really want you to help us match up with someone. I don't get too involved in those. What I'll say is, here's a group of people that may fit, and I'll send them their emails, and then they reach out. So it's kind of I'm just a conduit to have students kind of reaching out and finding some of these. A lot of print shops are looking for people, but don't advertise that. And because some shops are really small, like a lot of our print shops in the city are probably 10 employees or 15 employees or less. And it's a real family affair. Not that they're family, but they work together like a family. And they don't want to advertise and have 100 resumes of people they don't know about. And so what they do is they love these work terms, and they bring someone in and say, oh, this is the type of person we want. Like someone who fits with them in the way they think about their work, and maybe socially or whatever makes people vibe. A lot of printing companies wait for the right person to come along rather than advertising, which is really interesting.
Yeah, so those connections made through the program are so important.
They're critical, yeah.
Yeah. So another kind of component, for folks who are thinking about applying is always going to be the financial part. So we've got tuition rates here on screen. You can see we have 2 different rates for the domestic student tuition and then for international student tuition. And then there are other fees to take a look at on top of this. So we've got a link on the bottom of the page here to the program fee section. So looking at things like health insurance and parking and a UPass and all of these other things that students are considering when they're budgeting. But Doug, we are a school with a lot of financial supports. We give out millions of dollars of awards to students every year. So there would be a lot of awards that your students could apply for because they're general, they're really open to anyone. But I know that there are typically some awards that are specific to graphic and print production students too. Do you want to talk a little bit about what you've seen your students get?
Yeah, we have sort of 2 main scholarship specifically for the printing program. So the first one is the Canadian Printing Industry Association Award, and it's $1,500. We award it to 2 students every year, and it's $1,500 per year. And if you keep your grades at a certain level, then you'll get the $1,500 in your second year as well. So every September, 2 students get that, and they carry it on for both years. And then we also have the Sign Association of Canada. They have their own kind of sponsor a student thing, but they do it through a scholarship, which is a $1,000 renewable scholarship. And the little catch for them, this is very clever, because there's so much demand sometimes for the really skilled labor. So the Sign Association says, we'll give you the scholarship, but you have to do a work term within the sign industry and not the commercial printing industry where they do books and magazines or whatever. Because there's so many segments to our industry, our students go out there and they just spread out everywhere. But the Sign Association says, no, we want you in the sign industry. So the only way to get this $1,000 is to say that you will do your work term here. So at one of their approved signs, and we help you with that process to say, here's all the companies that you could apply to. which is kind
Oh,
of cool. Yeah.
yeah, good to know there's lots of support out there for students.
Yeah. And there's a bunch of others too. Like if you go onto the awards page, and I always use just print as my search, and it'll bring up those awards and bursaries, but it'll bring others as well because print is in with some other creative industry ones like the Spark Awards or the Office Interiors Award, where they've put in maybe 5 programs and print has to be one of them. So, definitely check that out. We're always trying to promote that, and sometimes it's difficult to get students to do it. But I keep saying it's free money. So speaking as a parent, hey, just get out there and get some of that cash, right? Do it early.
Yeah, there are so many awards opportunities, and I'm glad you brought that up because I think sometimes when we're on the student side thinking, oh, I'm not going to be lucky, I'm not going to get anything, you can be so pleasantly surprised by what that work will yield in terms of awards. So, of course, opportunities aren't guaranteed, but it's really worth taking some time to apply. And scholarships can be applied for, well, awards in general at NSCC. We have 2 kind of cycles every year. There's the spring awards and then the fall awards. So many students would be applying, once they've been accepted to the program, they jump into that next award cycle, and then they would apply every spring and every fall right up until graduation. So depending on the timing of your acceptance for a 2-year program, there's potentially 5 different cycles that you could be a part of. So lots of opportunities there.
Yeah, perfect.
And so there are some estimated additional program costs that I think we should talk a bit about because they're going to be unique for every program. And for this program in particular, I see things like Adobe Creative Cloud, Google Drive. There are safety gloves students use. Do you want to touch a little bit on what these costs look like?
Yeah, I'll kind of take you through them a bit just so it's clear. The textbooks, they'll be here at the Ivany campus when you show up in September. There's basically 2 books or might be 3 books this year, around $60 to $70 each, and that's the Adobe. That's how we kind of approach Adobe at the beginning. Before we do a lot of hands-on, we kind of use this classroom in a book, and it kind of walks you through lessons and that kind of thing. So that's the books that you'll need for the first year. The Creative Cloud is basically your license to have that software as a student, and then that will give you access to all the software that we need for this program. The next 2, external hard drive and Google Drive, that's really about making sure your files are safe. So Google Drive, obviously you can use OneDrive, you can use Apple's cloud. It doesn't matter. I just put Google because it's something. But basically a cloud-based file system would be a great idea. External hard drive is because, at the end of the day, you need to move files around the shop a little bit. So we always get some, go and buy a gigabyte or terabyte drive. These days are not expensive, but it's a nice way to secure that your files are done. What we try to do is try not to use these little USB thingies. Although they work quite a bit, they're really small. They're easy to lose. You'll find them in your washer and dryer if you don't watch it, that kind of thing. So we kind of advise around these because if you're holding all your student files on here and you lose this, it's never a good thing. So those 2 things are really about securing that your files are good for all your courses, okay? MacBook computer. So this it would be the lowest end Apple Air computer that you can get in terms of laptop. We have Macs in this shop. Obviously, you can see some right there, and we have them in our Mac lab as well. But it is a Mac laptop program, so you'll have a lot more flexibility and ease of learning at home. That's something you can do at home, is practice the software. Even though I'm not going to give you specific lessons to do at home, you can do all your extra learning there, which will give you great flexibility. Tools, safety gloves, like our rulers, knives, gloves, glasses, that kind of thing. You don't need to buy any of that before you arrive. So we have a supplier who brings that all in, and we just pick a day, and the students show up with some money, and basically we'll give you your whole toolkit that you need for the printing industry. Okay. And then the co-op is an actual course that if you decide to go that route, you have to pay this fee and then kind of go through that. So that's the additional costs there.
Mm-hmm. And so you were talking about how you are a Mac focused program. So we've got a little bit of information about the computer requirement here on screen. And so if someone has a PC, you're saying stick with the Mac because there will be greater kind of communication, I guess, between all of the softwares that you need and the kind of learning you're doing in school. Is that correct?
It is, here's the thing. The reality is our industry runs on Mac and this program runs on Mac. But every year I'll get one or two students who say, I don't have the money to buy a Mac, but I've got a really good PC laptop. And you can make that work. It's extra steps, but if you want to save the money on buying one of these, and you'll still need the Adobe license, so that $312, you'll still have to buy that for your PC, that license piece. But in terms of the machine itself, if you're savvy with your PC and you buy that Adobe software, I've got students that go through with no issues with it. So I leave it up to you. Like if you have a PC and you have the money, maybe it's a great time to learn the Mac operating system because that's what our industry is doing. But I understand the financial constraints that can be on you as a student. So if you already have a laptop PC, we can make it work. You do more of the work than I do, but it'll work.
Yeah, I find I have two computers that I use in my life, a Mac and a PC, and it can be tricky sometimes switching between the two, for me anyway.
Yeah,
Um, so yes, I can definitely see
yeah,
the benefit of keeping it streamlined, but great to know that there's that flexibility for students.
there is. Yeah.
Um, there are just in general student discounts for computers. If you're buying something new, say directly from Apple, they have a special kind of student promotion. But I've also seen some good sales at other stores on Mac. So, you can shop around and take a look if you're in the market for a new computer.
Yep. I'm happy to do that. Happy to help too. Like every now and again, we get questions over the summer, like students who are enrolled for September this year. They'll reach out and say, I'm going to buy this Mac, but I just want to make sure. So my email's later on in this process, and feel free to reach out if you're not quite sure what you're buying. I'll help you do that part too. We don't mind kind of helping out before you get here.
Yeah, that's great. Now, this isn't a program or an industry where a university degree is going to be required for employment. Like the program that you're teaching, Doug, is giving you everything you need to know to step into industry. That diploma that you earn is going to be really valuable. But I did want to share, just in case anyone is kind of thinking about university in general, something they might want to go on to do, to know that we have two transfer agreements through graphic and print production to do two different university programs. So the first would be a University of New Brunswick Bachelor of Applied Management program. And the second is Royal Roads University, which is in British Columbia. They offer a Bachelor of Arts in Professional Communication. Both of these programs would allow you to take the credits that you've been earning at NSCC and transfer them into their four-year program. So you'd be able to jump in kind of midway and finish a degree. So this is something, if it's a goal for you, maybe it's something on your radar, know that you don't necessarily have to choose between college or university. You could combine them together and come have the NSCC experience. And then if you decided later, be able to apply to jump into the middle of a university undergraduate degree program.
Can I add one piece to this?
Yeah.
There's also in Toronto, the Toronto Metropolitan University, they have a 4-year degree in graphic communication management. So basically this program is teaching you the production standards and all the hands-on skills. And TMU, they have sort of the management level. So you're going to do a lot more estimating, research, that kind of stuff, but it's all still based around the university, or sorry, it's all still based around the printing and signage industry, but we don't have an agreement with them. I'm just letting people know that, if you want to come to college for a couple of years and work a little bit, but then you say, I really want a degree and stay in this field because it will elevate your career in different ways. That in Toronto, there is a 4-year degree based on printing.
Yeah, and that brings up a good point that, we have the two transfer agreements that are written contracts essentially with these universities, but that doesn't prevent a student from applying to other schools and taking their NSCC credentials and saying, hey, how many transfer credits will I get for this experience? So please don't feel limited by, the two agreements. If there's something like maybe at TMU, for example, you're interested in, you could always apply with your NSCC credentials and see what they'd be open to transferring.
Yeah, it's kind of cool because it works backwards as well. Like we get a lot of students that come here I've already been to university. And so they might have a business degree, and a business degree fits beautifully with our industry, right? Obviously, because we're a business. So they come in here and they start to learn the terminology and the production standards, and then they go out and they can be in sales, administration, marketing, whatever of a printing company. So we're starting to see a lot more of that, more post-secondary people coming back into the college. And so it fits beautifully with our program as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. Good to have all those different ideas and experiences in the classroom too.
Yeah.
So if you're interested in applying, you should absolutely apply now. So depending on when you're watching this recording, and this is being recorded right now on July 4th, 2025. If you're a domestic student, you don't have a deadline. So if you are a Canadian citizen, permanent resident, or have refugee protected person status, you can apply to NSCC anytime throughout the year. We'll hold on to your application and consider you for the next intake. And remember, I mentioned there's an intake in September every year. If you're an international student, you have a timeline, or a deadline rather, to adhere to, which is April 1st every year. So it would be at this stage, at the time of this recording, too late to apply for September 2025. But when our enrollment switches to 2026 at the end of September 2025, you could then apply for the September 2026 intake. And if you have questions about that, email us in recruitment. We'll share our address at the end of the presentation. But generally speaking, if you're interested, you can apply typically most times through the year. We have an online application. It's quite straightforward. Your name, your address, your education experience, graphic and print production as your first program choice. Then once you've been accepted, so that's after we've reviewed your online application, we've looked at any education transcripts, maybe language testing. If your education was outside of Canada, you can accept your program seat by paying a tuition deposit, and then we would welcome you when classes begin in September. So you're always welcome to reach out to us in recruitment if you need any help to navigate through that application process. But we've got apply now buttons all over the website, and that's where you'll find the online application. So if you do have questions after today, you are welcome to send us an email. Myself and the rest of the student recruitment team, we monitor the recruitment at nscc.ca email address, but you could also reach out to Doug directly. And so Doug, you've included your email address here on this slide. So, if it's maybe more of a admissions-based question, maybe that's best for recruitment, send it our way. We can help you with the application system. But if you do have anything, specific about the program, maybe you're interested in what kind of career path you'd like could align with the program, or if you have a question about the computer requirement, going right to Doug would be a good option there.
Yeah, reach out with anything at all.
Yeah. So that's it for our slides. Doug, is there anything else that you wanted to mention before we sign off today?
I really don't think so. We covered it all. As I was going along, I was like, maybe there are a couple of things that we missed, but I feel like we got a pretty good overview of the entire program and the process. But we'll leave that up to the folks that are going to watch this. So if anything comes up that it didn't get answered for you, reach out to recruitment or me. I check my email over the summer and be happy to chat with you and help you out.
Wonderful. Well, Doug, thanks so much for chatting this morning. I really love hearing about your program, and I hope this video is helpful for anyone curious in the future.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye. See ya.
Bye.